We're going to start with tandem rigging soft baits. This is a great technique on some of the larger soft baits out there, including this 10-inch hoagie that I'm holding, and also some of the larger baits such as the 14-inch and 18-inch hoagies. Tandem rigging is effective for three primary reasons. One, and most noticeably, the tandem hooks will mitigate any short strikes you may have, whether it's a smaller fish, short striking fish. You know, it's a great method for increasing your hookup ratios. Number two, the inline configuration of these tandem rigs serves as an excellent keel effect, which is important in rough water conditions or perhaps fast moving water, and that'll keep that bait swimming just, you know, subsurface under the water and keep it from spinning. And lastly, the heavy hooks such as the Hoagie Quick Rig will add just a little bit of natural weight right down the center line of the bait. So that'll help you get just a slow, what we call an intermediate sink rate. And you know, that'll be a good technique for, again, keeping that bait in a subsurface situation. Now, if there were any limitations to tandem rigging a soft bait, number one, it would be dehooking fish. These hooks, keep in mind, are razor sharp. So if you do land a fish on the tandem rig, you want to be careful of that extra hook. The fish thrashing around, it can become a little bit of a hazard. And number two, tandem rigging, I just want to mention again, is appropriate on larger baits, but as you know, some of these smaller baits, as you can see, you know, there's just not a lot of meat to the baits, and the additional hardware associated with the tandem rigging might impede the action of the bait just a little bit. You need enough brawn of the soft bait to stand up to some of the larger hooks that are used in tandem rigging. Now for this demonstration, we're going to use a 10-inch hoagie. Now I'd like to mention that most of the hoagies come with the patent pending tandem rigging slot, which you'll see why it's so important later on in this rigging segment. To start, we're going to use the appropriately sized rig for the 10-inch hoagie. They're all labeled on the packaging, so you know just which rigs to use. Now to start, it doesn't matter which hook you start with, they're interchangeable, but whichever hook you start with is going to be your second hook. So we're going to insert the hook right into the nose of the bait, being careful to make sure we're in the dead center of the bait. We're going to pull the hook through about an inch or so, and we'll call that step number one. Now step number two, you're going to take your lead hook and you're going to insert the tip of the hook through the same hole. You're going to follow the same path, and you're just going to push it through. Now you're going to want to make sure that this line is nice and neat and along the hook shank, nice and parallel. And so we're just going to push it in, give it a push, then a slight pull. And so that's your lead hook, and that's the hard part. And lastly, step number three is going to be inserting the hook at the far end of this hook slot and out the special rigging indicator. And now I'll just label that briefly so you can see it on the TV. Now I've circled the exit hole, and so we'll know just where to come out. This exit hole is important because you want to have the rig spaced properly. It'll make sure the bait lays nice and straight. If the hooks are out of alignment, it may cause the bait to spin. So this is a great technique for keeping the bait nice and straight, paying attention to that exit hole. And this is, like I said, the easiest step here. On the far end of the rigging slot, we're going to enter the bait, then come out where the little indicator is. Push it through with your fingers, bend the hook back, and you have a perfectly tandem rigged soft bait. Now, final step worth mentioning, and it's optional, but it's a technique that I recommend, would be just securing those hooks in place. I like to call it preventive maintenance. And basically what we're accomplishing is really securing those hooks in place. Now remember, these are soft baits and they will get torn up over time. And if just with a little bit of preventive maintenance, it'll really extend the useful life of the bait. And it's just a simple process with a drop of a super glue, Pro Soft Bait glue, our hoagie glue, just real simple. You take a drop, you put it on all entrance and exit points on the soft bait. Now I just did the rear hook, doesn't matter which one you start with. Putting another drop here and just on the nose of the bait. Now the advantage to a super glue or any CA derivative glues is that it'll dry very quickly. These hooks have dried just here in the filming, and you can see they're really set into place. And that, like I said, will greatly extend the useful life of the soft bait.